Good afternoon to everybody, and thank you a lot for this invitation to talk about such an important topic, and also to thanks to our moderator and the panelists that will comment on my introductory remarks. What I'm going to propose today and share with you in the next few minutes is really very ambitious. Probably is a dream. Someone already said that it is crazy, but there is only one certainty, that what I'm going to propose is very urgent and important, something that we cannot delay anymore. So our proposal is to have, as soon as possible, a protocol on food and nutrition. A protocol which deals with and gives answers to the big and urgent dilemmas that the planet and the people experience every day. You have to know that the foundation that I represent, the Barilla Foundation, with the contribution of several international experts, in the last years studied and summarized what we call the great food paradoxes of our century. I want to make sure that you know that today, in the 21st century in our planet, with more than 900 million people that they don't have access to food, there are almost twice as many who are overweight or obese. And 36 million people die each year because they don't have access to food, while 30 million people die each year because they have too much food. In other words, in this planet, there are people that die because they have too little, and people that die because they have too much. The second paradox. Today, people, animals, and cars are competing for food. Let me explain better what I mean. While we have the 900 million people malnourished, 33% of the total corn production, 33%, is used to feed almost the 5 billion livestock. And 7% of the total corn production worldwide is used for the production of biofuel. And all of that, while the projection to 2020 showed that the cereals intended for human consumption will decrease, and the cereals intended for animals or for the production of energy will increase. These are public data. And again, another paradox. While we have 36 million people that die every year because they are being denied the right to food, this planet, our planet, produces already enough food to feed at least four times the 900 million people malnourished. Unfortunately, for different reasons, 1/3 of the total food production get wasted. It will never reach our tables. In developing countries, because there are no infrastructure, no logistic. In the so mature economies, your economy, the United States, my economy, Europe, simply because it is lost simply for our bad behaviors. Because we don't eat everything we buy. For example, tonight, this evening, when you go home, open the fridge and look at how many food there is in your fridge that is expired or close to expire. Or because we eat too many calories, and also that is food waste. Finally, I want to make sure that we are all aware about something which is very alarming. Already today, with our current lifestyle and behaviors, we are consuming the natural resources of 1.5 planet. 1.5 planet. If we continue at this pace, when we have to feed 9 billion people in 2050, even more than 9 billion people, we would need the resources of 3 planets. And obviously this is neither possible nor sustainable. Well, with all this in mind, there is something which is very alarming. All these emergencies are not topical, are not a priority of the political leaders of this world. In fact, if you look at the agendas of the political summit, you know, the G8, the G20, the G40, you will never find food and nutrition as a topic of their discussion. Obviously, they talk about economy, they talk about finance, how to grow the competitiveness, how to stop the migration, how to fight the terrorism, and much more. All these are very important issues, no doubt, but it is not reasonable that food and nutrition and the great paradoxes are not a priority as well, because the solution of these paradoxes are a prerequisite of the solution of all the other top priorities. Instead, unfortunately, we are, since ever, witnessing something that is unbelievable. These issues are simply outsourced by our political leaders, together with their accountabilities, and in that way, okay, the political leaders can offload the issue. Instead of tackling and discussing these issues personally, the issues have been delegated and are delegated to reputed, wonderful, large international organizations. Through the payment of a yearly contribution or a tax, the states have put the management and the solution of these emergencies in the hands of a wonderful organization, and I say that with all the due respect, such as the United Nations in New York, FAO, the World Food Programme, IFAD in Rome, and many others. Unfortunately, the extremely alarming data and facts that we see every day tell us that this is not the right way to manage the issue and the problem, because the issues, instead of getting fixed, are becoming even more important and dramatic. I think that we have to ask ourselves, which are the reasons for the despair of people today, for the great migration, for the wars, and more for violent conflicts. I think that we have to ask ourselves which are the reasons for the warming of our planet. Hence, our proposal, the proposal of the Barilla Foundation, is to put an end as soon as possible to this story, and to make sure that the paradoxes go back to the agenda of the political leaders. I would say not only to the political leaders, but the society, the entire society. And this proposal, in the coming month, will be fostered by an exceptional and unique event in the history. For the first time, the Universal Exposition, which, by the way, this year will take place in Milan from May to October, will focus precisely on the subject of food. The title chosen for the event is indeed Feeding the Planet, Energy for Life, and clearly and powerfully puts the topic of food in the center of the agenda. Imagine 146 countries from all over the world, countries, will be participating to the Universal Expo. The political leaders of these countries will spend at least one day of their time visiting the Expo and talking about food and nutrition. More than 20 million people will visit the site, but even more important, for 6 months, all the world will be talking about food and nutrition. In short, the coming months are a unique opportunity to talk, discuss, and propose a path and solution to the above-mentioned paradoxes. Let's make sure that the Universal Expo is not only a great business event, at the end of which nothing remains. Let's make sure that there is a legacy, that the Expo produces the seed, since we are talking about food, and commitment to stop as soon as possible malnutrition, obesity, food waste, and much more. That's the reason why the Barilla Foundation proposed a protocol, the so-called Milan Protocol, which, in addition to recalling the dilemmas, also indicates precise guidelines and objectives to be achieved in the years to come, so that the eradication of hunger does not only remain a goal in principle, but it is actually pursued, so that the figures on overweight and obesity will be reduced in the years to come big times, so that sustainable agriculture will be really promoted, and speculators on food on the stock exchange will be banned, so that food is produced for human consumption and not for feeding cars, so that finally food waste will be reduced dramatically in the years to come. The protocol has been written with the help of some of the best leading international experts, has been shared with thousands of ordinary people and opinion makers. Dozens of public and private NGOs have already shared the content and even signed the protocol. And even more important, recently, to our great satisfaction, the Italian Prime Minister Matteo Renzi publicly praised the work we have done. As a consequence, the Italian government, which by the way will be hosting the Universal Exposition, announced that on that occasion a policy document will be presented, the Milan Charter. Starting from the Milan Protocol, the Milan Charter will deal the same issues and will aim to get the support of the largest possible number of states, companies, NGOs, and ordinary citizens like you. The Italian government intention is for the Milan Charter to be a policy-making document, open to all, because each of us, in his or her capacity, can make and can play a huge contribution. Let me conclude by telling you which are the key steps for the months to come. According to the Italian government, the following are the main steps for drafting, sharing, and getting the Milan Charter adopted by head of states and governments. From now on until March, the Milan Charter will be drafted. In March 2015, the Milan Charter will be presented to the 146 countries attending the Universal Expo. On June the 4th, the Italian government will host within Expo a political summit attended by the 146 political leaders with the intention of getting the Charter signed by them. And finally, on October 16, which is the World Food Day, the Milan Charter will be handed over to Mr. Ban Ki-moon, the Secretary General of the United Nations. Let me conclude by saying that our hope, my hope, Chairman, is that all of you in this room endorse and share the proposal of having, call it a Milan Protocol or a Milan Charter, and that we join forces to ensure that what seemed like a dream until yesterday can become a reality in the interest of every individual, but especially of the new generation today and tomorrow. Thank you very much.